Okay.
So there are today is actually, if I recall correctly, today there are 4 Mishnayot
That would be correct.
on the list. That is because we wanted to get more Mishnah out of the way so that on the last day of camp, Sunday, we'll learn only a single Mishnah together. We'll have learned all the other Mishnayot before, so we can do a Siyum without having to go through like 2 or 3 Mishnayot before. So that's why today we have 4 Mishnayot.
One of them, also just so you know in advance, one of them looks rather long. That would be this one right here. It is in fact long, but you've all already covered it under Chavrutas. So we're not going to cover it today. This is the story of Choni HaMe'agel. So look at that. I don't know why the numbers are off on my screen, but that's 8. Number 7 is the first one for today. So that's the one that starts with Al Elu. We're not going to cover that, but you should learn it on your own. There are questions on it. The story of Choni HaMe'agel, there are questions on. And then in the Shiur Mishnayot right now, we're going to learn this, which is 9, and the first one of the next chapter. So without further ado, why don't we start? So, yeah. Hayu mis'anin v'yardu lahem kshamim kodem hanetz hakama. If, while the people are fasting, right, before we were talking about all these different situations in which we might establish fasts, why we establish fasts. So now suddenly we're discussing, we're in a fast. For whatever reason, we have this fast going on for this plague or presumably for the lack of rain. And suddenly it starts raining. If it starts raining before Kodem Hanetz Hakama, before sunrise, Lo Yashlimu, they do not complete the fast. La'acher Hanetz Hakama, if it comes after Hanetz Hakama, after sunrise, they do complete the fast.
Basically, because although we start fasting before sunrise, off as like some kind of precaution or an introduction almost, if it hasn't yet actually been sunrise, then the day hasn't started. If the fast today hasn't, halachically actually started in that sense, why should we complete it? We never started it.
And to really drive in that point is also to ask the question, like, why would it raining stop the fast in general? Because we've been learning that the reason we're fasting at all is because of the rain. So this isn't just any like arbitrary fast day. These are specifically the fasts that we have in order to stop a famine, in order to get it to rain. So if it's starting to rain, then obviously the need for the fast is no longer there necessarily. Rabbi Eliezer provides a sort of a more lenient approach. Rabbi Eliezer Omer Kodem Chatzos Lo Yashlimu. So if it's any time before Chatzos, before midday, you do not complete the fast. After Chatzos Yashlimu. And if it's after Chatzos, then the people are supposed to complete the fast. Similar idea as the beginning of the Mishnah, like the sort of logically same process, just come to a different conclusion.
It could be that this is part of the halachic principle known as rubo kekula, i.e., most of it is like all of it. Although when they say most of it in the Gemara, they really mean over half. There's this halachic idea that over half of something will often count as if it is the whole thing. So maybe in that sense, have you fasted over half the day? Then you gotta fit. There's this idea of that then you've really gotten into the fast day. You have, as it were, what's what I'm looking for? Obligated yourself to fast a full day.
Okay. Any questions anyone has at this point?
I have a question, actually.
Yes,
why do you think Sammy, tell me, why do you think there's value in completing a fast when the thing we are fasting for has already come to fruition?
That is quite a tremendous query you have there. I don't know. Maybe that's a good question. Maybe it's because if we
what Bernstein says, so it continues to rain. True. One rain does not mean
right? One rain doesn't mean the end of the famine. So, and maybe we're trying to say to Hashem, maybe we could even say like Choni HaMe'agel said in the previous Mishnah. Maybe it's not exactly the type of rain we need, like there are the different types of rain that some of them are better for trees, some of them are better for different crops. So it started raining, but maybe it's not the exact rain that we need. So there might still be more reasons to fast. Sadok, thoughts on that?
Yeah, I was thinking there's this great joke where somebody is driving in the city trying to find a parking space and everything's packed. It's like, center of New York, Manhattan, everything's packed. He can't find a single parking space. So he looks up to the sky and says, God, if you give me a parking space right now, I will donate $200 to my shiur. Immediately, a car in front of him pulls out of the spot right in front of him. Bing, he has a parking spot. So he quickly looks up and says, oh, it's okay, God, I managed to make it work by myself. So maybe in the same sense, if we say, okay, we're going to do a fast day in order to appease God, in order to improve ourselves as people, in order to pray, and then halfway through we get what we want, maybe it's kind of, disrespectful or
Dishonest.
ungrateful of us to be like, oh, okay, we got what we want. Thanks, God. We're done.
Right. Just I happened to look in the chat for the first time this meeting.
Oh yeah, there's a lot going on there.
Wowzer. Alrighty. Sadok, do you want to finish up this Mishnah?
Do I have a what now?
You want to finish up the Mishnah?
Oh yeah, of course. מעשה שגזרו תענית בלוד וירדו להם גשמים קודם חצות. They were in Lod, and there was a fast, and rain fell before noon. אמר להם רבי טרפון, צאו ואכלו ושתו ועשו יום טוב. ויצאו ואכלו ושתו ועשו יום טוב, ובאו בין הערביים וקראו הלל גדול. I.e., a third opinion. With Rabbi Tarfon, it rained prior to Chatzot. I mean, sorry, not a third opinion. The second opinion. It rained prior to Chatzot. And indeed, they said, all right, we're done with the fast. Not only were they done with the fast, they did a Yom Tov. They ate, they drank, they were happy. So
I'd say that's a little bit of a third opinion because they're taking Rabbi Eliezer's opinion to sort of greater degree. They're saying not only do we complete the fast, or do we not complete the fast, but we're actually going to make it a yontiv. We're going to make this a great day. We're going to have a great feast. We're going to eat and drink. We're going to celebrate, which I do think is a separate entity, a separate opinion in its own right. Otherwise, the Mishnah would not necessarily have had to point.
Maybe that means it's almost like a way of dealing with the issue we said earlier, that we don't want to seem ungrateful or like, oh, okay, God, we're done with this day. No, we're still going to complete the day in some sense, but as a happy day. It's actually a nice idea.
Yeah. Okay. Any questions from the youths?
I mean, they've got plenty of questions in the chat.
Oh,
but,
I mean,
about a slightly different
has to do with the Mishnayot.
That must have been a really interesting 301 by Esti.
Maybe I should watch the video. They have them all recorded.
Yeah. I'll definitely watch that later. All right. Does anybody have any questions about the Mishnah?
And if not, do any of you want to read? You can raise your hand with the little hand raising function. Noah Bernstein. And
Woo woo.
Oh, somebody else raised their hand too. We can split it between the two of you. Who else raised their hand? I can't see it.
I think it was Mayor 21 Frankel.
Mayor Frankel also want to read?
I think it's Sarah.
Sarah Leonard raised her hand.
Sarah raised her hand. Okay. So
היו מתענים וירדו להם גשמים קודם הנת החמה לא
No, wait, we just read this.
We just did that mission. I haven't scrolled down yet. Sorry.
Yeah. All good.
So there are two people that want to read. I'm sorry. We should have asked for the first Mishnah. Split this up into 3 parts. Yeah, there are 3 phrases. That's okay. We can do that. Because also Ayelet looks like she wanted to, yeah? Did I see it?
No, it's fine. I by accident raised my hand.
Oh. Okay, so Sarah and Noah will split it between the two of you. Sarah, why don't you read the first half? Starting with
בשנה הכהנים נושאים את כפיהם 4 פעמים ביום בשחרית.
Okay. And then who was the other one? Noah, right? Do you want to finish it up?
Yeah. Masur Inqa Sharim Batan Aniyot Madosh Biyam Kippurim.
All right.
Good job.
Thank you. That's great. 3 times a year, the Kohanim will raise their hands 4 times a day. Who knows what that actually would mean for us, raise their hands?
To do
When does
like
it
the
come?
blessing.
Good.
Exactly. Now, it occurs to me that Birkat Kohanim for most of you is a much bigger deal than it is for me. Because I live in Israel, I have Birkat Kohanim once a day, minimum. But in America, remind me, you have Birkat Kohanim not even on Shabbos, right? Just on Yom Tov.
You have
Yeah,
it,
no, like only like 3 times a year.
or more than
Right.
3. You have it
Like
whenever-
Pesach and Sukkot and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Not
So,
even every Yom Tov.
really? Well,
I think it's
that depends on how we define, like, say,
regular
Purim and
ones.
Hanukkah. But I think every Yom Tov from the Torah has Birkat Kohanim, like Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur,
I don't
Sukkot,
think Rosh
Shavuot, that
Hashanah
stuff.
has it.
Rosh Hashanah
Sure.
has.
Oh, okay. But in any case, obviously the Mishnah is talking about in Israel, saying that in Israel there are 3 times a year with Kohanim, not only say Birkat Kohanim, because they say it every day, but they say it 4 times a day. They say it in Shacharit, in Musaf, in Mincha, and in Ne'ilah.
Well, so I think
Now-
this point only is in reference to Yom Kippur. I think on fast days in Ma'amadot, they're saying, I think the general point is it's just saying at every point, at every.
No. Fast days in Ma'amadot have Ne'ilah.
They do?
Fast days that was specifically made for times of crisis often had Ne'ilah in the times of the Mishnah, because it was considered a day like Yom Kippur.
I apologize.
That's what I recall. No, it's fine. I could be wrong. I could definitely be wrong. But my father, who teaches Gemara for a living, is saying I'm correct, so that's good.
So I trust Rabbi Blau. Yeah, and you, both of you.
No, I would trust him more. In any case, yeah. So there are 3 times a year where the Kohanim would actually say Birkat Kohanim 4 times. What are the 3?
Anyone else? We just read them. Noah.
Oh, Noah, yeah.
Yom Kippur.
Yom Kippur.
Monday.
Sorry.
On fast days.
Fast days. Specifically fast days that were made for times of crisis, like on Tisha B'Av or Yud Zayin B'Tammuz. We do not. Speaking of which, Yud Zayin B'Tammuz is tomorrow. I forgot.
It is tomorrow.
And third? So the Ma'amadot were when, how the Kohanim was split up into groups, right? And the groups would kind of switch off every 2 weeks, I think. It was 2-week cycles, so 24 groups a year. So, more or less. So, along with the groups of Kohanim and Levi'im, there were also the groups of Israel, not Kohanim, not Levi'im, who would join those groups. They'd go out to Beit HaMikdash. Now, they wouldn't actually work in Beit HaMikdash, of course, because they're Israel, but they would kind of pray and fast and provide, as it were, spiritual support for the Kohanim. So those guys who would be fasting and praying would also say Birkat Kohanim 4 times a day. Now, who here thinks they know why specifically these 3 days get 4 Birkat Kohanim? Anyone?
You can raise your hand if you think you know, or just start talking. So to go in one direction with it, potentially, if you look at the similarities, what's the same about all 3 of those days? All of them happen when the people do not eat. So maybe that has something to do with it? Anyone have ideas from there?
I didn't.
Akiva, did you say something?
No, I did not.
Okay.
Well, I'll give you guys a hint. What do these days have that no other day has in terms of amount of davening? How much we daven?
We
For what
usually
they
only
have?
say like Shachar,
They have Musaf.
Musaf, and Mincha, but now we say Ne'ilah.
Exactly.
Very
For
good.
Chazarat HaShatz, we can only say Birkat Kohanim in Chazarat HaShatz. So obviously, you need days with 4 tefillas with that. Mariv, is a different category. So these 3 days fit the bill. Now, this is something none of you should know. In fact, I only know it because I learned Ta'anit a few years ago, the Gemara in full. Another reason, which is interesting, and why these are all fast days, is because why do Kohanim not say Birkat Kohanim and Mincha on regular days in Israel? Because the halacha says that they should, in case they have been drinking. There's a worry that people don't tend to get drunk before, in the morning, but there's a worry that in Mincha, the Kohanim will be drunk. And, we really don't want the Kohanim to go up to the bima while they're drunk. But on a fast day, that is not a worry. Yes,
Which is
David?
also why on like Simchas Torah, we do the Birkas Kohanim and Shacharis for that very same reason. Yes, David?
I thought I also learned like something else like that. Like the Mincha, like less people are able to attend because like they're old and they can't make it. So they make sure to try and go to Shachars, but they can't always make it to Mincha. So that might be another reason why they like don't do Birkas Kohanim.
I'd never heard that, maybe.
Same, but it's an interesting idea.
Sounds like a legitimate idea. Alrighty.
Does
Anyone
anybody have any questions
questions,
regarding this Mishnah?
concerns, queries?
All right,
Good job, everybody. You did it.
that's good. I'm going to get up the questions, of course.
Oh, yes. That is.
Keep in mind, there are 4 questions to answer today. 4 questions for the price of 3.
Did anyone bring hot chocolate today? I don't think you.
Oh, yeah, any hot chocolate?
But,
I did.
well, Sarah has hot chocolate.
I brought hot chocolate.
That's
Good
how we.
stuff. Jacob has hot chocolate. Woo.
Okay, I am putting the questions in the chat. Mishnah 7. What we did
question.
not learn. Can we blow a shofar on Shabbat in times of crisis?
Yeah. Question 8, or Mishnah 8, which is about the story of Choni HaMe'agel. So we all learned this story earlier in Tochnit. But what halakhic point does the Mishnah attempt to prove by bringing his story?
After all, the Mishnah, unlike the Gemara, doesn't tend to just bring stories for the sake of teaching, some kind of musar or something. The Mishnah tends to be more halachic. So what halacha are they bringing the story for?
Although it is still a fun story, so.
Of course, no. Obviously. Mishnah 9. What do we do if it rains on a fast day? According to Chachamim and according to Rabbi Eliezer, we learned this about 10 minutes ago. So
You did. If you pay attention, maybe you know. And for the last Mishnah we just learned, on what occasions, those very same occasions we just discussed, would a Kohen say Birkat Kohanim 4 times in one day? Such
all right,
questions.
get into